Let's suppose I am violent. Anger, jealousy, brutality, driving ambition that brings about competition. And I'm always measuring myself against somebody else. And this comparison makes me feel I'm inferior to you who are superior. So there is a battle. Violence. I know all that. Then I say to myself, I must get rid of this. I want to live at peace. Though I've lived for thousands and thousands of years as a human being, there must be a change. There must be change in society. How rotten it is, and it is. So I'll plunge into social work and therefore forget myself. And the social work and the society is me. So I'm escaping from myself and realizing all the tricks the mind plays upon itself. Now I look at myself, I'm violent. And how do I look on that violence? As a censor who condemns violence or justifies violence, or one who is not capable of dealing with that violence, therefore escapes from it. How do I look at myself, look at that violence? Please do it. Are you looking at it as an observer who is different from violence? The observer who is separate, who condemns, justifies, and says this is right, this is, and so the observer looks at the violence, separates himself from violence, and condemns it. Or is the observer the observed? You're following? The observer recognizes violence and separates himself in order to do something about it. But this separation is one of the tricks of thought. So the observer is the observed, is the violence. So long as there is a division between the observer and the observed, there must be violence. Right? So when I realize that, not verbally, realize with my heart, with my mind, with my whole being, then what takes place? Do you understand my question? You know, when you observe anything, there is always not only a physical separation, distance, space, there is also the desire to identify yourself with that which is beautiful, noble, and not identify yourself with that which is not. So identification is part of the trick. Of a mind that has separated itself as the sensor and is now trying to identify. But whereas, when the observer becomes aware that he is part of the observed, and he is, and therefore no image between the observer and the observed, then you will find that conflict completely comes to an end. This is real meditation. This is not just a trick. Therefore, it's very important, imperative, that one understand oneself deeply. Understand all the responses, the conditioning, the various temperaments, characteristics, tendencies, just to watch without the observer. We are meeting now to observe without the observer. And that is the act of learning. And so that's the act, that is the action. Now, there is a difficulty in this. One is observing oneself. One wants to learn about oneself. The more you discover, the more you understand, the greater the freedom. I'm using the word more purposely for the moment. The more is a comparative evaluation. I want to understand myself, learn about myself. In observing myself, please do this as your speaker is going into it. Do it actually. Don't take it home and think about it. Do it now. This is not a group therapy or a confession or all that nonsense. But watch yourself as we are working together. I want to learn about myself. And myself is a living movement. Each desire contradicts the other. They're living, moving, they're vital. And I observe. And through that observation I've learned. With what I have learned, I am going to look next minute. Right? You follow this? I am going to look, observe with the knowledge which I have gathered through previous observation. Am I learning? Is there learning there? Because When the mind observes with an accumulated knowledge of its examination, from its examination, that knowledge is preventing perception. That knowledge is preventing the freedom to look, see the difficulty. So can the mind observe without accumulating? And the accumulation is the observer, is the sensor, is the conditioned entity. Therefore, to look without accumulating, that is, look. Someone flatters you, says how nice you are, how beautiful you are, how very intelligent, or how stupid you are. Now can you listen to what he is saying, that you are stupid or very clever or very this or very that? Can you listen without accumulation? That is, without accumulating the insult or the flattery. Because if you listen with accumulation, then he becomes your enemy or your friend. Therefore, that listening and how you listen creates the image. Right? And that image separates. And that image is the cause of conflict. The image that you have about the communist and the bourgeois. The image you have about the Catholic, if you are a person. And the Catholic has the image about the person. The image you have about your husband or your wife or your boy or whatever it is. You believe and another does not believe. So there is contradiction. So can you observe without separation? Can you observe at the moment of violence, at the moment of your anger, without the censor? See how difficult it becomes if you're not aware at that moment. If you're not aware at that moment, you've already created the image. So to observe the cloud, the beauty of it, the light of it, to observe the lovely hills in this country, to observe the light on the water, just to observe without naming it. Because that the naming, the knowledge, The experience prevents the mind from observing totally. So when the mind can look without the observer, all fragments come to an end in oneself. And this is really very important to grasp, to understand. And this cannot be taught by another.